Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to do a couple different things. First, we're going to try and save per se, this pretty beautiful Florida Beauty. As you can see, the last 3 leaves have come out with none to very little variegation. I was waiting for this one to show me some variegation, but sadly it has none. So what we're going to do is cut the top 3 leaves. Hopefully the next one is variegated, that way we have another variegated plant, but we're gonna cut the top 3. Then I'm going to try to cut off this one, which is honestly the most beautiful leaf, and try to grow it as a single node cutting, because if I don't think you'll be able to see it, but in here there is a little node, like the little eye, where the new shoot will come out of, and it is in one of the variegated lines, so hopefully we'll have some very nice variegation there. And well, the rest of the plant is pretty variegated, so we'll most likely have 3 plants, 2 pretty variegated, hopefully, and the last one, the top, which has no variegation, so we will see how it goes there. And also I'm going to give it a moss bowl. As you can see here, a lot of the roots, well, I can't really lift it up because if you see, oh, I'll lift it up, never mind. It has water. It has a lot of tiny water roots, so as you can see, let me try to show you. I don't want to put water all over my table. As you can see here, it has some very pretty aerial roots, which hopefully by placing it in a moss bowl, it will be able to grow a lot bigger and quicker. And secondly, I did an air layering video on this. I don't think I've uploaded it yet, so I think I'll upload it today or tomorrow. That way, when I upload the video Sunday, well, this video Sunday, you'll be able to see the air layering first and then this. So at first I thought the variegation was lost, since you can see here some pretty variegation. However, in this one it's completely normal. And I've also wanted a variegated and a normal melano. So I was thinking on separating it. However, I didn't want to risk cutting off the leaves and then it just dying. So what I did was simply air layer. Sorry if you're hearing like a little buzz, I don't know what it is. It's right there beside my house, so that's right. So as you can see here, maybe too much glare. I think you can see it a bit over here. When I remove it, you're gonna be able to see it much better, but it has grown quite a bit of roots, and that was around the variegated leaf. So once we cut it, I'm gonna cut it right underneath the variegated leaf. It will of course grow a new shoot out of the original plant. We will have the variegated leaf to the side, which will be able to grow hopefully pretty variegated leaves, and we will have the normal leaf giving me as a top cut, right? So it has a new leaf. I don't know if it's gonna be variegated. It looks pretty stained per se. This one wasn't, it was just white like this, so maybe it's gonna be variegated. However, I have to cut it now since it already has a bunch of roots. I was also thinking if maybe I could put it in maybe a different pot. I got it in this one, didn't move it. I put it in a different transparent pot and give it a moss bowl since it has roots. However, it has roots all around, so most of the roots are gonna die if I do the moss bowl option. So that's what we're gonna try to do today. Cut this, give it a moss bowl, and cut this, and I don't think I'm gonna give it a moss bowl yet. I will most likely make update videos on how it's progressing, and probably give the top cut a moss bowl once it's grown a bit bigger. But for now, it'll stay as just a top cut. And if you can see it here, It has, no, this does not have glitter. Oh, here we go. You can see the little new leaf starting to come out. So let's get started. We will need a couple different things. First is this little X-Acto knife. This, I forgot the name. Oh, this, it's just for cutting plants. Or this little stainless steel scissors, which for the Florida Beauty, I think I'm gonna use this one since it's a bit more exact, and for the melano I'm just gonna use this one. So, since I think this one, the melano is easier, let's move this to the side, and let's start chopping for here. I did place this second air layering like a week ago, so most likely it will not have any roots yet. So that's a bit sad, but okay. Since I put the little stick since it was too heavy with the moss. So let me remove it so you can see a bit better. So just cut right under the saran wrap. Oh, that hurt a bit. This plant was not exactly cheap, but now we have 2 leaves with pretty low variegation. So let's hope for the best and that it gives some very nice, a nice shoot to hopefully with some variegation, right? So there we go. That's the first one. And secondly, this is a bit more difficult since I think the nodes are pretty close. Yeah, I don't think this one worked. This second air layering, it was pretty recent, so I don't think it really worked yet. No, I think it's just cut it off. Hopefully I don't cut off any tiny roots that were there before. So yeah, so you know, since it was still pretty short, the roots are here. And I think I'm also gonna try to put it in a reservoir like this, so hopefully that works. But this one here, hopefully you can see it better now. There, you can see a bunch of nice roots. So just got it right above it. And let's open it up to see what we are dealing with. Since I did grow this in moss, I think I'm gonna use a bit more moist substrate. I do have quite a bit of substrate there. Oh, I do not want to break any of these roots. Let's see. Okay, it's a bit dry. The moss is a bit dry, but there we go. Now you can see the roots properly. I wonder if it has any growth point. I don't think so, but you know, I don't think there's any growth point yet, but I'm not gonna disturb the roots much more. So here we have this little variegated leaf, and let's hope this gives me some pretty nice variegated, well, a new variegated plant. Let me go get the materials. Use a bit of this. I already have a bit of mixture here. It's just cocoa coir with wood chips and charcoal, and you just see a tiny bit of moss here and there, and lickables. So since I do want something airy, sorry for the noise. Since I do want something airy, I'm gonna put a bit of these here. Not many, since I have another more chunky thing I want to add, which I'll bring right now. And it is some, I forgot the name. It's pumice, right? Pumice. So just some pumice stones. just to make it a bit more airy. They're pretty dirty, but they work. So since I am gonna need quite a bit of substrate, I'm gonna add a bit more coconut coir, since the humidity is going to be a pretty big factor in making these plants survive. I'm gonna add quite a bit of the coir because that's what holds most of the humidity, and a bit of wood chips and charcoal. Here we go. I think that should be enough. So let me just try to move the camera a bit lower. Yeah, maybe there. Okay. So just mix it up a little bit. Honestly, I think this is the most appropriate for trying to make these plants root. So give it some nice air, which is necessary for the roots not to rot, and will also sustain quite a bit of humidity. I'm going to add a bit more stones just because I want it to be a bit more chunky. There we go. So that looks pretty good. I think it's a good balance between chunky and retaining humidity, right? So for the smaller one, I think these are too big. Yeah, I think it's way too big. So I think I'm gonna use the small one. See? So you don't want it to be too big. Like, you don't want the pot to be too big because it can retain moisture for too long and it can kill the roots and kill the plant. So just give it a bit of this. The roots here. So I put the plant here and just fill it up. So I don't think it'll be much of an issue that I'm covering the entire node. I'll leave a tiny bit on top. Since I don't want it to fall, I'm just pushing it a bit. Try not to compress it too hard because, as I said, we need some good aeration on the roots. So I think that should work. And I'm not gonna water it yet. I'm gonna water everything at the end. So this is the first one. First one is ready. So go to the side and let's go with the second one. As you can see, the leaves are drying out a little bit, but hopefully it survives just fine. And again, it's too big. Where is the other tiny pot? Should be around here. Oh, right here. So this one doesn't look as pretty, but it will work. Just put a bit in the bottom. Since this one still doesn't have any developed roots, I do not want to suffocate it. So try not to put it too deep inside a tiny pot. And I think we are done with this one too. So there we go. Of two new, hopefully that will survive, two new melano plants. So I'm gonna keep them with a tiny reservoir, that way they don't dry out at all. And hopefully I'm able to give you a positive update sometime in the future when I notice that this one hardens off and gives me a new leaf, and sorry, this one gives me a new shoot. So let's hope it works. Let's move on to the trickier, mostly trickier. Yeah, as I explained before, I'm going to be using my X-Acto knife since it's a bit more precise. I'm really scared of cutting this one. It's a very pretty, but I do need to make it a bit. I need to persuade it to give me better variegation, so we have to cut right here, right there. Since, yes, those are the top 3. Oh, sorry, I moved the camera stand. Gently. I do not want to damage the other leaf. There we go. Oh no. Well, now going back. So we have quite a bit of aerial roots. I think I'm gonna cut. Yeah, I think I'm gonna cut this one off, the lowest leaf, just because I don't want this to be too much in the dirt. Oh, no, I think it should be fine. I'll leave it at that. We'll see what happens. And let me go a bit lower. It's a bit shorter now. Oh, the plant looks so small now. Okay, but anyways, maybe I can show you here. So I think, no, it's not really focusing, but I'll just explain it right in here, right in there. I see the little node eye type thing where the new shoot's gonna grow. So I need to find a way to cut these tiny roots here, be able to cut them off while not removing or damaging this leaf. So let me try to, I don't know, I'm trying to find the best way to do this. I think it's easier if I just like try to pull this a bit down without too much pressure. And just give it a cut slowly. Root. Try. Maybe can I get this camera to focus? It's not that good quality, it's just my phone camera, but yeah, I think I cut a bit of this root right there, but the other two seem to be fine. But yeah, we have that one there. I am quite disappointed that I cut this one. I can put a tiny stick. Let me cut off a tiny piece. So I've had these leaves survive even when I mess up and cut them a bit or break them. So I'm gonna grab this tiny stick, put it in here, and hold it up, making sure it's connecting properly, and try not to move it. That way the leaf doesn't hopefully die. But yeah, let me move it a bit here so you can see the mess that I've made here. So here we have the Florida Beauty, quite low again. So we have here the top cut. It's starting to get the Florida Beauty, Philadelphia, Florida patterns with the little crazy shapes. Very cool. That's why I love this plant. And little cutting. So let's see. I should have a tiny pot here. I thought I was gonna use the big transparent pot, but I think it's too big for these plants. I think I'm gonna use it for this one though. So I am going to give it the name, the moss ball. So I'm gonna get the materials in just a minute, but for now let's put this little guy here. Since I don't want to make a mess with the substrate, I'm putting it here again. Just gonna use a tiny cup. Here we go. It's a mess, but I really want this to stay in here. I'm gonna have to use a tiny stake again. Hopefully that can hold the little node in place. Oh, so it stayed. There we go. So please send me some good luck. Hopefully this little plant doesn't die on me. Hopefully, I really hope it doesn't. And we have a nice variegated plant. So there you go. I'll leave it over there. And I'm going to get the material for the moss bowl. I have another plant. I have another plant that's on a moss bowl. However, I didn't make the moss bowl too long, so I cut off the excess, and I'm going to use it for this one. As you can see, it does consume quite a bit of space. However, it doesn't really matter. I don't think I have any more moss at the moment, so I will have to do with this. So just gonna clean it up a bit since it is. I think it has too little zip ties, so I'm gonna put a bit more so it doesn't open or anything like that. So this wire is pretty much covered in plastic, so it won't rust like normal metal would, as it being always moist or constantly in contact with humidity. So that's a good thing about this little wire that I found. And if in case you're asking what type of moss I'm using, the sphagnum, it's a bit more difficult to find it here in Costa Rica, so here I'm using Chilean moss. I don't know the difference, however this one has worked just fine for me, so no complaints there. And it is too long, so I think I'm gonna have to cut it around. I don't want it to be inside the soil, so around here. So as you can see here, let me try to show you. I just put a bunch of mica balls at the bottom. That way I can have easier drainage. Yeah, some are falling out, but it doesn't matter. It will still work. Just going to fill this up. Yeah, see, you can see it here. Not much of the moss is touching inside or staying inside the pot. There we go. We are ready to put the little plant. And maybe this way. Yeah, I think this way works. That way I can put the roots, like the fresh roots, inside the moss, and the older ones inside the mixture. Yeah, that. So I'll just grab a bit more of this. Pretty messy, so please don't judge me on this. It's it's still difficult to record these videos. So here we go, giving it quite a bit of. Well, I'm just backfilling these spaces there. I think this tiny cup is too small, but it gives me just enough to put things in here. So I did put one of the roots inside the moss. That will make the roots grow in here and develop a better root system. Now the only issue is trying to keep it constantly humid, or at least humid most of the time, so that it doesn't, well, to encourage root growth inside the moss bowl. Because if it's dry most of the time, it won't really help the plant and will more than likely kill any roots that are trying to grow in here. So now I need to find, oh, sorry, let me get a bit more so you can see. I'm going to get my Velcro, please, just to put around it, and I cut it off. So I know it's a lot, like a lot of extra, but doesn't really matter since it can be reused. So I'm just trying to force this to stay within, like stuck to the moss. So here in the back, I just need to maybe hold it a bit lower. Okay, I think that works. I don't want to have it too tight and hurt the plant. So for now, it'll work like this. And hopefully this doesn't break off or anything. So I think we are ready, and I'm going to get a little dish so I can submerge all of these plants so that they get some nice water since they are freshly cut. Since I do want these to soak up the water nicely, like get very, very humid, I am going to first put them a bit of fertilized water and then just let the excess stay here and fill it up a bit more with normal water. That way the plants can stay submerged or with their feet wet for a minute. That way, well, we make sure that it's properly hydrated. Then just carefully, very carefully put this here. Now with that, I'm just going to leave it here for a little bit and keep an eye on them if any of these get wilted or I don't know, anything. I'll just check to make sure that nothing happens to these for a little bit, just so they establish into their new media, and hopefully, as I said, hopefully they thrive and give us some beautiful new plants. So that'll be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.